Hey, good morning and welcome to Funky Rainbow, this monstrously good Saturday morning. I mean, you know what the theme of our bazaar is, and I know it's a hugely popular theme with, children and adults. Arunji, good morning. So lovely to see you here at the bazaar. We're delighted that the books got to you, and I hope you've been enjoying each and every one of them. So, of course, here we have, a collection of books that feature monsters, and mostly, and it's something that we have noticed across the years, right? I mean, when we were all growing up, monsters were scary things. I mean, everybody was. We'd run the other way if there was a word, if the word monster was mentioned by adults around us. But hey, children don't seem to be running scared of monsters anymore at all. And that's because a lot of monsters in books and movies, they're all friendly, happy, smiling monsters. So here we are, and we said, let's just turn the spotlight. I mean, we're in the festive season. I mean, it's a month of, giving, sharing, kindness, laughing, and we said, let's turn the spotlight on mostly friendly monsters. I mean, some smiley, some scary, some stinky, some sweet monsters from Indian children's books. And I can see Prerna Agarwal saying, hi, hello, lovely to see you here this morning, Prerna. And Arun saying, wonderful books. I've been enjoying reading them and I'm eagerly waiting to share them with my students. You really pick some fantastic books, Arun, and the Stara ones are keepers. I mean, anybody who has those books is never ever going to complain about being bored ever. I mean, right? And I think that's exactly what your students are going to experience. And you're now waiting for monsters. And yes, indeed, we do have a monstrously good selection of books on monsters, and we've interpreted them creatively, picking monsters from different cultures, from different folklores, right? I mean, our guest today who will join us later in the show is going to talk about South Asian monsters, from folklore. So here we are with what I say is really a pleasant collection of books on Indian, of monsters from mostly Indian children's books. We have, of course, for all of you who are joining us for the first time, I mean, all the books that are in this bazaar are up on our website, www.funkyrainbow.com. You need to click on the tab that says Book Bazaar. There'll be a drop down menu that says season 1, season 2, season 3. Click on season 3, and there will be a tab that says monsters. Lots of books in there. We can recommend only 10 or 12 of them across the bazaar. So if you find that some of these interest you, do browse through that collection, because that's what we work for every week. We curate and put books into thematic categories. So the next time you're searching for a book, you just find it really easy to find them on the Funky Rainbow website. The Book Bazaar is now classified into 3 seasons: season 1, season 2, and season 3. I mean, you could just click any of those tabs to find books thematically. And there are, over 60 themes now that I think we have put up on the site. So, of course, the good thing, I mean, there's always been a fascination for monsters. I mean, even if they're friendly monsters, right? I mean, like, even if the monsters in books and movies are friendly monster, there's a bit of the fear of the unknown, right? There's always that little bit of fear of the unknown that makes it so much more exciting. That makes it so much more exciting to pick up a book on monsters. You're wondering, am I going to get really scared? Or is there something going to happen that I can't predict that is going to happen? And I think that's the eternal fascination. Whether the readers are children or they are adults, there is always that slight unknown factor that makes that makes monsters so exciting, that makes us have a lot of maza with books around monsters. Now, of course, and a lot of counselors, when we I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of children who really have fear of monsters under the bed at night time, right? How many of us, I mean, the minute the lights are turned off, you're like, okay, there's something lurking under my bed. But these fears, a lot of counselors say, if they're not extreme, they are pretty good. They help you deal with fears in the real world. I mean, they prompt you to face your fears. They prompt children to face their fears. They prompt children to confront their fears. And if it is not an extreme one, then it is something that is preparing you for the real world. And I believe monster books do just that. I mean, often the end of the book will show you that monsters, they're just a figment of your own imagination, and how scary or smiley or stinky or sweet they are depends on how imagine or what you're letting them do with your imagination. Matthew Jacob, how lovely to see you from Dubai. It's been ages since you joined us at the Bazaar. Good morning to you, and all the funkies sending you out a big hello as well. Of course, I have a lovely quote from a British historian of folklore, who says, monsters found in folklore do a lot of different jobs. This is from Simon Young, a British historian of folklore. And he says that, they uphold morality, enforce taboos, connect us to divinity, warn us against dangers, but most importantly, they really do entertain. And I found that that quote connected so well, with the clutch of books that we have, to present to all of you this morning. So we shall begin with our first clutch of recommendations. And I want to say hello to a lot of friends who join us on Instagram as well, week after week. We do broadcast our show on Instagram as well, the Book Bazaar on Instagram as well. But when the guest of the day comes in for a conversation, we're not able to stream it through Instagram. I know we've now, for the last couple of weeks, been leaving the Instagram on, so you can at least hear what they are saying. But if you can move to YouTube or Facebook, if that's a possibility, do consider by 12:15 or 12:20 to move to those channels, so you can actually watch the conversation with our guest of the day. And we really are very, very excited about the guest who's joining us today. I also want to say that, this Bazaar has been sponsored by a wonderful publisher of Indian children's books, HarperCollins India, HarperCollins Children's Books India. And we're really thankful that they recognize our initiative to promote Indian children's books, and are perhaps one of the first publishers to have come forward, to recognize the Bazaar as an initiative to promote Indian children's books. So a big shout out and clap to the team at HarperCollins India for supporting small independent ventures like Funky Rainbow and our Book Bazaar. With that, I will start with the first clutch of recommendations, and it's going to be a pleasant start, and you'll know why that is going to be very, very quickly. But the monsters that are the most favorite in Indian, in Indian folklore and in Indian mythology are the Rakshasas, of course. And so our first set of recommendations, and like I said, we've interpreted this quite creatively: Rakshasas, giants, trolls, I mean, all constituting monsters in our book. But the first recommendation this morning, a loveliest book from our collection called The Pleasant Rakshasa, written by Soumya Rajendran and illustrated by Nivedita Subramaniam. I just love the Rakshasa in this book, as will many, many children. First off, his name, Karimuga. I mean, he's just, and I love the way Nivedita Subramaniam has drawn Karimuga. He's a Rakshasa, and he's a really pleasant Rakshasa. He's a beautiful Rakshasa too, actually, And what happens, that makes all the other Rakshasas, and look at how lovely and happy Karimuga is. But to see him happy and beautiful makes all the other Rakshasas jealous of him. And you know what? He's so sweet, Karimuga, that he can't bear to see the other Rakshasas feeling so unhappy. And you can see that. I mean, look at the color and the quirky style with which Nivedita has illustrated Karimuga. Now, what happens? Soumya, of course, a great writer, with a wonderful writer with lovely concerns that inform her writing. And in this one, very subtly, upturning the concepts of beauty, of gender, of some. They're just, I mean, your child may understand that through the book, may not understand that through the book, but you can see how well she inverts the idea of beauty and of what is beauty, what is happiness through this lovely story of Karimuga. Now, of course, as you go through the pages of this book, there are going to be, wonderful Rakshasas in pink and purple and blue and green that join in and add to the fun. So the Pleasant Rakshasa, published by Tulika Publishers, we recommended for 3+ year olds, priced at 150 rupees. Arun, I can see you saying, good to hear. Hope many more publishers take the initiative to support indie bookstores. A big shout out for HarperCollins. Thank you so much for saying that. Really, it's been what, 2 years, almost 1.5 years of the Bazaar, and we have just been promoting Indian children's books so that people everywhere get to know them, get to discover the treasures that exist in the Indian children's publishing space. And it gives us so much joy when a publisher recognizes that, and we really hope more people do and come forward to support us to keep these initiatives going. So of course, so there is Pleasant Rakshasa and two more Rakshasas from the Indian children's books context, and there's Junior Kumbhakarna by Arundhati Venkatesh and illustrated by Shreya Sen, which is also such a sweet story. It is about a young boy called Cuckoo who wants his father to tell him his favorite story every night. And it is just that one story. And how many of us know children like that? It is the story of the giant Rakshasa Kumbhakarna who sleeps non-stop for 6 months. Of course, Cuckoo doesn't need 6 months to fall asleep. Every time his father starts telling him the story of Kumbhakarna, in a bit, he'll absolutely just nod off and fall asleep. And every time he falls asleep in his dreams, everyone in his dreams is doing everything that's possible to wake Kumbhakarna up, and nothing really works. It's such a jolly and such a lively retelling of an episode from the Ramayana, but done so well. And I really love Shreya Sen's funny pictures in the story, really bringing a chuckle. Like I said, we're featuring pleasant, funny, happy, sweet, little bit scary monsters in this Bazaar. So you can see, Shreya Sen's picture of Kumbhakarna really, eliciting a lovely chuckle. Now, what happens? Does Kumbhakarna ever wake up, or does Cuckoo learn to sleep without the Kumbhakarna story? You've got to read this lovely book by Arundhati Venkatesh to find out. It's meant for 4+year-olds and priced at 175 rupees. And one more, which I don't think we focused on this ever before. A book by a very popular writer, Ranjit Lal, Who's Afraid of the Rakshas, Sweetie Man. This one published by Pratham, written by Ranjit Lal and illustrated by Lavanya Naidu, is again, it's such a good book to tell you the story of how monsters are what you imagine them to be. So in this story, there are twins, Samar and Nivya, who are waiting for the school bus. And as they're waiting for the school bus, they're like nudge, nudge. You know what? He's looking at us. Don't turn around. He's looking at us. And you know who's looking at them? The Rakshas sweetie man who's watching the children from the shop across, and who looks huge and scary. And I love this description that the two kids have. His face is like a bulldog, Summer says rudely, and his nose is like a samosa, Nivya says, and his fingers, they look like hairy bhindis, ladies' fingers. Look at that. Does that not make the Rakshas sweetie man look really scary? And on the cover, which gives away what the Rakshas sweetie man does. My God, he just chomps everything that comes in sight. Now, is he really the horrible guy, that the horrible monster that Nivya and Summer imagine him to be? Happily, I must not give you the answer, but you probably know, when I'm grinning, from year to year, that he is absolutely not. But how do they find out that? And what is the surprise that they get at the end? A lovely book featuring the Rakshas sweetie man, published by Pratham, priced at 45 rupees. We would recommend it for 5+ year olds. So 3 books on Rakshasas, the traditional monsters from our own mythology. There are many more in our collection. There's a set of books called Tale Tales, 2 books which that feature unusual Rakshasas from Indian mythology. From there, we move to giants. I mean, like, just giants. And my, aren't giants scary as well? I mean, we know of the giants from Jack and the Beanstalk. We know of giants from so many other traditions. But here we have 2 giants, from 2 picture books. From The Color Thief, written by Stephen Aitken and Sylvia Sikundar, and illustrated by Sandhya Prabhat. What of this grouchy giant? This is a really grouchy giant in this book. And what does he do? He decides to just scoop out all the color from the world. He's like, I don't want to see the world in glorious technicolor. And I'm just going to take it all away from the trees, from the flowers, from the birds, from the animals, from the fish, from the water. My God, what happens? Does the world then? And look at what he's doing. He's just swirling out those, scooping out those colors, like sucking them away from the world, putting them into a pile up there, and the world absolutely going dark. What happens? What happens? Who tells the, what happens to the grouchy giant? Who tells him that the world is a lot better with colors? That, oh, the world is much nicer when there's a funky rainbow across it, obviously, right? And what happens? What really happens? Of course, the protagonist, I mean, how does that protagonist do? It's just a lovely little young girl, who, who doesn't see why the giant should be so grouchy, just like little children do. I mean, this giant whom everyone imagines is a monstrous chap. Why does the little girl not see that at all? It's a multi-hued book, really. And I think the right fit at Funky Rainbow, really. So beautifully illustrated by Sandhya Prabhat, whose illustrative style we just love. And you know what? It's all about a new way of seeing. So a lovely book recommended for 5+year-olds, priced at 225 rupees, published by Tulika. And another giant in our collection is Pintu and the Giant. And I think we've recommended this one earlier once in some other bazaar, written by Sulabha R. Devpurkar and illustrated by Ashwin Chikkarur. It's a story about a little boy, who's coming back from school one evening. He's on his own and he's merrily walking, back home, up and down some hills and some meadows. And suddenly the sun begins to set. And the scare that it, there's just that traditional belief, right? How many of us have heard people saying, at least, adults around saying, come before the sun sets? I'm like, why? Be out after the sun sets, really, like, right? But what happens is when the sun begins to set rapidly, Pintu just slowly starts to get very, very scared. Like, see, he's walking back in the midst of some fields and he gets really, really scared. And you know what? Suddenly he feels he has been lifted up, and more up by a giant. Oh my God, what happens? Pintu looks into the giant's face. You can see, I'm not giving you more of the book away, but you can see Pintu looks into his face, and oh my God, what happens? It's a familiar fairy tale once you start reading it, but you know what? It's all about a child's vivid imagination, and what that vivid imagination can do, what the curiosity and vivid imagination can do, what that does to you, really. A lovely, charming story. We'd recommend it for 5+ year olds, and it's priced at 150 rupees. So, like I said, two giants, in one instance grouchy and in one instance scary, but two giants that are absolutely, that are construed to be monsters, but, prove that maybe they're not. Maybe you're just looking at them the wrong way. Okay, our next clutch of recommendations. And like I said, we often focus almost entirely on Indian children's books. But the next one that I'm recommending, it is too hard to resist putting it up in our bazaar and showcasing it to you. This is the lovely popular writer Tom Fletcher's There's a Monster in Your Book. Gosh, what a fun book this is, because you know what's happened? A mischievous monster has absolutely broken into this book. Not anywhere else, not into your house, not into your. And you know what? We have to try and get him out. So there is this sweet and lovely monster, mischievous guy who has absolutely broken into this book. And oh no, what's going to happen? Are we going to be able to get rid of him? You know what is lovely about this little book is that it's so interactive. And not because it has pop-ups, or not because there are lift up flats. It's just the way it's written. It's really, there are questions, and kids or the adults who are reading it with them will have a lovely time engaging with the book, because it's going to make them interact with the book and see whether you can get the monster out of this book. It's so charming, such a lovely read. And what we have along with it, and not connected to the monster theme, or maybe you can interpret it like that, is there's a dragon in your book, and there's a superhero in your book. I guess there are many more books in the series. There's Alien and there's Witch, but we managed to get these three up. And earlier, I think there's a unicorn in your book, but I'm not sure that that's there right now. But they are just fantastically fun and interactive books by Tom Fletcher. And if you really want to see whether it fits into the theme or not, well, there's a monster, dragon, quite a monster, and hooray, superhero that's coming to save the day. Three lovely books by Tom Fletcher, priced at 399 rupees. And all our international children's books are available at a 15% discount. So do consider picking them up from Funky Rainbow if you feel that they interest you. The next book that I wanted to recommend, and I can see, a bunch of people saying hello and hi. But the next, the next book that I'm going to recommend before I say hello to everyone who's joined us today is this lovely story by Rohini Nilekani, she's well known for her Sringeri Srinivas stories. I mean, Annual Haircut Day and Sringeri Srinivas, whose distant relative lives with us, at Funky Rainbow, basically. And so those popular Sringeri Srinivas books, the author of those popular Sringeri Srinivas books, has done another lovely book for young readers called The Hungry Little Sky Monster. And this one has been illustrated by Megha Punetar. And you know what? It's so, so sweet. There's a little boy in the book, and what he wants to find out, and he's asking, Mama, why does the moon get small and then so big? Could there be a naughty little sky monster who gobbles it up? So he's really curious. He's like, Mama, look at the moon shining bright in the sky. I want to go to the moon. How I wish I could fly. Why does the moon grow big and then get so small? And on some nights, why is there no moon at all? And mum, I'm sure, bogged down by the 5,000 things that she has to do every day, says, okay, go to bed now. I'm giving you a big hug, but just go to sleep. I'm going to tell you the answer another day. Of course, no kid will fall asleep, right? And you know what happens? The child starts to think of his own explanation for why the moon gets big and then small and then completely disappears. And his imagination is that maybe a hungry little sky monster who couldn't find anything fun to eat, and the full moon so shiny and so near looked like a yummy treat. This is just such a wonderful poem to read to young children and send them to sleep with sweet dreams. I'd say, 2+ if you're reading it to them, but 5+ if they can read it on their own. Roni Nilekani's charming, bedtime story featuring a hungry little sky monster. This one, published by Juggernaut, is priced at 399 rupees. I think many children and many adults will certainly enjoy this one. Sunila Kulkarni, how lovely. Hello, Funky Rainbow folks. Finally here. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much for sending us, for being our secret Santa Claus, Sunila Kulkarni Gupte. We have been packing and sending books. You can see the whole office is clapping for you. We have been packing and sending books here, there, everywhere, because many parents have been requesting for books to be sent. Many adults have been requesting for books to be gift wrapped and sent for Christmas. And what happens when we're packing and sending all of them? Lo and behold, secret Santas come into our horizon as well. And, Sunila Kulkarni Gupte, a wonderful writer of children's books herself, absolutely, sending us some lovely chocolate cake and cupcakes, being our secret Santa. It certainly powered us to pack faster and ship out the books much, much more quickly. Thank you so much for being our secret Santa Claus, Sunila Kulkarni Gupta, and we're delighted to see you at the Bazaar this morning. Divya Menon saying, good morning, Team Funky Rainbow. The mother is attending this bazaar on behalf of the children as they are away at school. This is one genre that I don't read aloud to them. Rather, they read aloud to me, and we want the answer. Are you scared or not? That is the question to which we want the answer. Thank God the bazaar is held during the daytime. We already have the answer for you. Vaishali Chakravarti, hello, you say, I'm in Bangalore and see you soon. I can't wait to be there and pick up the books. Lots of recommendations. Delighted to see you here, and we'd be really happy to welcome you. I know you texted to ask, whether we are open. It's because we're hosting the bazaar here that we open at 2 in the afternoon, open between 2 and 7 p.m. Because while the bazaar is happening, Team Funky Rainbow is just focused entirely on the bazaar. But absolutely glad to, invite you to your office. Please do come. It'll be such a pleasure. I'm quickly going to say hello to a bunch of people before I get on to more recommendations. Neha Goel, Kimna, Savi Karnal, how lovely to see you here. Info RM Ingu, Shailaja Menon, what a pleasure, Sangamitra, Rami Krish, Hamisa, Sujita Krishnamurthy, so happy that you're watching from school, Shanoy Niharika, Kahani Project, Swati, Surupa Mukherjee, Arunji, Prerna Agarwal, Tejasvi Venus, Matthew Jacob, and Sunila Kulkarni Gupte. What a pleasure that you all there at this on this monstrously good Saturday. Sunila saying, "Thank you, FR, for the lovely reaction. Feeling good listening to you. Lots of love. Thank you so much, Sunila." Jiva Jaydas saying, "Hi, lovely to see you here, Jiva. Storytellers, of course, absolutely loving and enjoying." Books of featuring monsters. I'm sure we're so delighted that you have joined us at the bazaar. Before I get on to more recommendations, I want to say that we're 2 weeks ago we did tell you that we were book partners with Qala, a quizzing company that does lovely family quizzes every Sunday. They partnered with us for a quiz on Malgudi, on a book around Malgudi days, written by Bharti, can you give me the book? Written by Lavanya Karthik, called The Boys Who Created Malgudi, which these are lovely illustrated biographies, simple, lovely illustrated biographies. And this one features R.K. Narayan and R.K. Lakshman, one who was a master with words and one who loved to draw. Now, they, did a quiz with Lavanya Karthik around this book. Lavanya Karthik, who's written and illustrated this lovely book. And it was such a thumping success that they are doing another one on the 19th. And, this time it features Master Manjunath. How many of you remember him? I know if you're in my generation, 100% you will remember him because Master Manjunath was the little Swami in the television series that many of us saw, growing up. And if you haven't watched it, it's certainly worth watching because it brings alive the simplicity, the charm, and absolutely the enjoyment of the Malgudi books so fabulously. So their quiz master this time is Master Manjunath, who was Swami in the television series. So, we will share the creative for this on our social media pages after the bazaar. There is a link, and you can absolutely register for this quiz and participate. There are lovely prizes to be won. We promise you a jolly good trip to Malgudi with Q Shala's Malgudi Days quiz. We will share the link up, on our social media posts. And for all you avid quizzers out there, it's just such a fun thing to do on a Sunday. Jiva saying, how can we get the books online? Link, please. I need the Malgudi book. They're all up on our website, Jiva Jaydas. Just type in www.funkyrainbow.com. If you're looking for the monster books, click on the tab that says Book Bazaar right on top of the page, and there will be a drop-down menu with 3 seasons of the bazaar in there. Click on season 3, and there will be one link that says Monsters. All the books that we're talking of at the bazaar are in the Monsters link. But the Boys Who Created Malgudi, not in that link. You can simply go to the search box and type Dreamers, and the entire series. Bharti, just show it to me. There are 4 books in the series, and they are just excellent reads for 7+-year-olds. There's The Boys Who Created Malgudi, R.K. Narayan and R.K. Lakshman. The Girl Who Was a Forest, Janaki Ammal. There's The Boy Who Played with Light, Satyajit Ray, and The Girl Who Sang, Tijan Bai. Lovely biographies for, I'm just going to show them to you. Lovely biographies for young readers. I mean, they're delightfully illustrated, and they will certainly inspire young readers. You can see not very heavy on text, so we'd say 6+ years old, certainly. And I love the way colors are used in this series of books done by Lavanya Karthik, written and illustrated by Lavanya Karthik. Muttama tells me, Jiva, you've done a lot of work for tsunami relief and you're quite a hero. So a big shout out to you. And I'm really glad that we do have storytellers. We do have people who are the real superheroes in our world. I mean, I know we are featuring monster books and there are lots of imaginary superheroes, but Muttama tells me, for the fabulous relief work that you have done during the tsunami times, real heroes and heroines in our life. Thank you. It's such a pleasure that you have joined us at the Bazaar. Do check it out. And if for some reason you can't find these off our site, and it's impossible that you can't find them, do connect with us on WhatsApp at 99004 95665, and we will, send you the links to pick up the books. Let me get on with some more monstrously good recommendations, as I like to call them. And we have moved on to a clutch of a lovely chapter book by author Nandini Nair, who's a huge favorite at Funky Rainbow. And I know many of you are familiar with her minis books, like the minis series. There's Minis Money, there's Minis Questions, and there is Minis Books. And why are we featuring Minis books in this bazaar? Well, because the latest installment of the book features the spunky girl called Minnie, who's also the heroine of the first two books as well. And this time she's with her favorite bunch of books. And why are they her favorite bunch of books? Because 6-year-old Minnie loves monsters. Who doesn't? 6, 16, 26, 60. I think everybody well and truly loves monsters. Now, she can't get enough of monsters, and whether they're big, whether they're small, whether they're smiley, whether they're scary, she just loves them so much that she wants to act like these monsters. She wants to talk like these monsters. She wants to be like these monsters. And that's why she loves her books, especially those monster books. And come on, after this bazaar, we'd like to see many of you, many of the children in your lives, like just holding on to their monster books like Minnie is in this one. But one day, her favorite books disappear. Aha, and therein is the monstrous twist in the tale. What happens? Because right next to her house, there comes to live a very real monster. And we're not going to tell you anything more, but you've got to read this third book in the mini series, which is such a jolly good read, Nandini Nair's stories. And these are chapter books, so they are accompanied by illustrations. So we would like say, 7+ years, depending, of course, on the age group. If your child is, reading a little bit more advanced, even 6+ is good, but 7+ year old, would enjoy this story. And you know what they have done? They have these color the stories. I mean, they've done this for a lot of books, HarperCollins, and I think it's quite innovative. The illustrations are black and white, which means the children who are reading the stories can color them in. They can just color the books with their own imaginations. It's such a lovely, lovely book, this one, priced at 150 rupees. The other books in the mini series, equally delightful. And for those of you who love books and series, do pick them up. But Minnie's books all about, Minnie and her books featuring monsters. From there, we move to a very, very popular series of books. All of you, I mean, I think almost all the people who watch us, almost all the people who come to Funky Rainbow do know of the fantastic whole books published by Duckbill. I mean, they were pretty much the first ones to sort of introduce this category of books, which help children make the transition between picture books and novels, like, big full novels like this. These whole books, ideal for 7, 8+ year olds, where there's still a lot of text. I mean, there's still a lot of pictures on the pages, text in large, typeface and large point size. But, the stories are simple enough to read, and, where children are getting used to reading some more words than there are in the picture books. These whole books have literally filled the hole in that space very, very well. And one of our, two of our favorite monstrous whole books are this one. I utterly and absolutely just love The Monster Hunters by Parinita Shetty and illustrated by Pooja Pottenkulam. It's got to be one of the funnest whole books in the series. And what is this one about? Well, two kids, Abhay and Nitya. What are they? They are monster hunters. They know, that there are monsters living in every child's room. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to hunt them down. It's so funny. It's a chuckle a minute kind of book, with I mean, the characters that Parinita has, besides Abhay and Nitya, their parents and their friends, you're laughing out loud. And I love these resolute children. Look at the resolute way in which they're cycling around to go and find the monsters that live in every child's bedroom. It's such a funny book. And I can see Sunila saying Monster Hunters, absolutely funny and fabulous. The kids will just love it. They will be laughing right through this story. That much, monstrously good fun. That's what this book is all about. And we have another one too, which is equally funny and very nice, The Vampire Boy by Sharanya Deepak, but one more layer on it. Chris, the protagonist of this book, is not a normal vampire boy. But, the children, he's a nice guy, but the children in school, they know that he's a vampire boy and they are absolutely terrified of him. How is Chris ever going to make a friend? What a lovely theme. You can see this book, I mean, written by Sharanya Deepak and illustrated by Vinayak Varma, whose quirky illustrations we absolutely love. There are laughs in the book, but there are lovely layers of meaning as well. It's all about, like I said, in two contexts, fitting in and belonging, but also about how monsters are what we imagine them to be in our heads. You can just see, I have one, yeah, you can see these pictures of Chris, in school, and maybe that just gives you an idea of why children are absolutely terrified of him. These two whole books, and we run a publisher spotlight. We've decided we're going to do three publishers, six publisher spotlights every year. And we started this in October, doing a publisher spotlight with Tara Books in October, with Karadi Tales in November. And this month in December, it's the Duckbill books published by Penguin Random House that are in our spotlight, which means they're all available at wonderful discounts. All the Duckbills are available at excellent discounts, especially the ones in series at even better discounts than we normally are able to give. So our publisher spotlight for this year will end with December, and then we'll go back to doing it again in April, May, and June next year. So make full use of our publisher spotlight. And I can see Shams brought up the visual. It's all over our social media pages. And, you can just visit our site and look for the Duckbill books. In fact, if you look on our social media on Instagram or on Facebook, one link to all the Duckbill books up there, which you can click and pick up the ones that you really like. And if monsters are a theme that you enjoy and your child is going to enjoy, must-read books. Both priced, we recommend it for 7+ year olds, both priced at 175 rupees. Our next set of recommendations too, a charming, set which has been awarded and loved by children across the years. This is the Bukasura series of adventures. I almost put the Bukasura books along with the Rakshasa ones when I recommended the Rakshasa ones right at the beginning. But this one is so delightful that we just had to put it out separately. So there's Bukasura, The Adventures of Bala, and the Book Eating Monster. Who is the book eating monster in this story? Really, Bala is is like a young boy and goes off, as you can see, he's gotten on a train and he goes off to meet his grandparents his grandfather, and I love this illustration by Priya Kurian, who's illustrated the book so charmingly. This one is, so he goes off to spend his vacations with his grandfather at his grandparents' house, and he believes he's going to be busy reading tons of books. What else? Of course, how do you keep yourself busy besides eating all the treats that your grandmother or grandfather are cooking up for you? You also enjoy a pile of books. But a strange multi-headed creature called Bukasura makes an appearance, and you know what he wants to do? He absolutely wants to eat those books. Oh my god, what is going to happen? Bala has to supply him a steady stream of books to eat. And what happens when he finishes eating all the books? Arunji is saying, I loved Bukasura. It's so hilarious, really, it is. And what's going to happen if, when the books get over, will Bukasura eat Bala up? Very real fear there. But it's really a delightful story about the power of books, reading, and the imagination. And that's why it's got to be in every one of your houses. This one we'd recommend again for 7, 8 plus. Again, like I said, reading levels, you determine it. Give the book to your child. If you find that she's struggling a bit, put it away, give it 5 months later, and there's every possibility that she is going to be able to read and enjoy it. This won the Best Children's Book Award at Comic Con 2015. And you know what? There's a sequel. The Bukasura's sequel is Kubandi, The Adventures of Bala and the Book Barfing Monster, again by Arundhati Venkatesh. I mean, who doesn't like all this? Which child is not going to like barfing monsters with snot up their noses? I mean, these are just utterly delightful stories for young readers. And in the book Barfing Monster too, Bala's books are under terrible threat, this time from his teacher, but also, from his sister, sorry, not his teacher, from his pesky younger sister, but also a Rakshasa, not, another Rakshasa, not like Bukasura, a different one called Kubandi. Really, what a lovely book. And for those of you who have read Bukasura, and you can see Bukasura here, right? And Kubandi is a she monster. So you can absolutely imagine what fun this, what a riot this read is going to be as well. Because in this case, this she Rakshasa mutilates books, misplaces. He is already under so much strain because his sister is misplacing it. And now there's a Rakshasa who's absolutely just destroying those books. Oh my, poor Bala. What's going to happen to him? Going to show you some lovely illustrations by Priya Kurian, as always. A charming pair of books, Bukasura and Kubandi, a must on all bookshelves. Okay, a clutch of more recommendations before we come on to new arrivals and our 5 at 20 offer. A clutch of more recommendations. Yes, I think we do have time for these at the moment. I was just checking because our guest will join us in just half hour, and that promises to be a fabulous conversation, with Musharraf Ali Farooqi and his fantastic books, recent one called Monster Tales from South Asia, Monster Folk Tales from South Asia. Our next book is another delightful story that we absolutely love at Funky Rainbow. This is Grey Strokes, Kokachi and Makachi. We just love the names, starting from the names of these delightful monsters, who Grey Stroke tells us that his grandmother used to invent stories around Kokachi and Makachi when he was a little boy and when she wanted him to eat his food really fast. So, right.
Thank you to grandmother, not to great folk.
Mutama says we owe all our thanks to the grandmother and definitely not to Grace Stroke at all. This one, written by Grace Stroke and in a role reversal, of course, written by Grace Stroke and illustrated by Abhignya Kavale, is a lovely, lovely story of two little monsters who live on a hill. You know what makes these monsters very, very different? Ah, well, unlike lots of other monsters, these two little monsters are absolutely scared of human beings. Ah, good reason, I think. And you know what happens one winter when it gets really, really cold? They decide that it's too cold up the hill that they live, and they absolutely have to, they decide that they're going to have to walk down the hill and get to the little village, which is absolutely down there. But you know what? Man, that village is full of human beings. What happens? Are the monsters Kokachi and Makachi ready for the adventure that awaits them? As the blurb of the book says so correctly, it's a book that's small on monsters but really big on laughs. We'd absolutely recommend it for 7+ year olds. But I do know, I know, Divya Menon, if you're watching, I know your little Ameya is a giant fan of Kokachi and Makachi, and she's a lot younger, I'm sure. But you can read this. Nothing scary in this book published by One Inch Margin, and what we'd recommend for 7+ year olds, but really a story that can be read to children of all ages. This one's priced at 200 rupees and published by One Inch Margin. Absolutely make sure that you get these monsters in your house for sure. Our next recommendation is again an unusual book that's been in Funky Rainbow for a really long time, and we've never had an opportunity to showcase it. I'm so glad that we have a chance now. This one is called Babayan and the Magic Star. It's written by Kiku Adoto and illustrated by Roger Bauman. It's actually published by Red Turtle, Rupa Red Turtle. And I was reading about it, when the book first came up. Kiku Adoto, who comes from Japan, had set up a Babayan project, and you should actually log in and read about that fascinating project. I really think the Japanese have some of the best monsters in the world. And unlike conventional monsters, the Japanese monsters are all, many of the movies that have been, that feature monsters, the roots of all of those are definitely Japanese. I mean, if you've been watching Godzilla, for instance, that the root of that really comes from a Japanese monster called Godzilla, right? I mean, so like that, the Babayan project, that she has done, where she's talking about many fierce monsters that have roamed the hills and valleys of the far north. But there's none as fierce as Babayan. And that's how the adventures of Babayan, the wild beast. But he's not just a wild beast. He's really, really a monster, And is it like a scary story? No, not at all. As with a lot of popular folklore, there's a love of nature. There's like the hierarchy of things in nature. All of that is woven into this fantastical story. And just look at these illustrations. I mean, they are just so beautiful. And that you just wonder, like, right, my God, our folklore, our mythologies, they're full of such, stories of strange creatures that inhabit the world, and, full of enchantment, full of magic, full of life lessons as well. And I think Babayan and the Magic Star, literally, I mean, yes, it begins with telling you the story of a particular hill in the north where many, many fierce monsters roam, but none that are as fierce as Babayan. And then it goes on to tell you about Babayan and his escapades and his own journey and his own travels. It's a beautiful book. We would recommend it for 8+ year olds, simply, like I said, to keep looking, I mean, to read a fantastic, some fantastic fantasy stories. And there are multiple stories in the book, all adventures, around Babayan, but just these fabulous illustrations making you turn the pages over and over again. Look at that. Look at that lovely dragon, and Babayan is the hero of the protagonist of this book, so he finds himself in the middle of several adventures as well. And I think it's we'd say 8+ year olds, priced at 195 rupees, published by Rupa Red Turtle. I can see Siddharth Nair joining us, saying very much there, and Ameya loves it. I'm sure he's talking about Kokachi and Makachi. Absolutely. And she's all of 3 years. So, for those of you who just, who are listening in, that's a book that maybe a 7+year-old can read, or an 8+year-old can read by themselves. But you can certainly read it for, two younger kids because of the happy monsters in it. And of course, Babayan, which we'd recommend for 8+year-old again. My next set of recommendations have got to be my most favorite monster books on this planet. I say that with so much conviction because I just love Anushka Ravishankar's Moin and the Monster books. I have absolutely known of so many kids. The books have been in print for very, very many years. And, before Duckbill took it and brought them out in this avatar, but Moin and the Monster, so many children who are now, maybe 20 or 21, maybe 18, who have grown up reading the delightful stories of Moin and the Monster. Arun saying that I absolutely love the books of Anushka. She's really imaginative. She's really creative. And in Moin and the Monster, she can just make you chuckle with every page. I mean, of course, the Moin and the Monster books are so beautifully illustrated by Anita Balchandran. So what is it? What is the story of Moin and the Monster about? I mean, in the dim darkness of his room, Moin just hears some shuffling. Now, who doesn't? We're all here. Like I said, you switch off the light and the next minute you're like, oh, I can see what's that monstrous shape up there? Is there something under my bed? I can hear some shuffling sounds. What's going on? There is some shuffling under his bed, Moin's bed, and it is a monster. Now, Moin has to learn to live with this monster. But you know what? This monster is like any other. He loves to sing silly songs. He loves to eat bananas. And what's more, he loves to try new hairstyles. My God, what a delightful monster this one is, really. And how will Moin keep the monster a secret from his parents and his teachers? And how is he going to send the monster back to where it came from? The book is just so frothy, so full of fun. And I mean, you could just pick it up even today, read it, laugh, chuckle over it, and thoroughly enjoy Anushka's wonderful, romp of a story in Moin and the Monster. And of course, I think the popularity, and I do know she was, as part of a panel discussion or conversation some months ago, and how many people asked her that if she's going to do a third book in the series, because when the first one got really popular, they did a second one called Moin and the Monster Songster, but these, have both come out earlier. It's a lovely, lovely sequel to it. Remember, this monster loves to sing songs. And so there is a concert that comes into a picture, and there's a Bollywood movie star who enters as well. And oh my, you will just laugh out loud with these two wonderful books featuring Moyne and the Monster. It's really easily, I think one of Funky Rainbow's most favorite books from our collection of 9,000 books. Oh yes, and okay. Two recommendations before we go on to our 5 at 20 books and our new arrivals. Now this one too, the next one that I'm recommending to you, it's part of a series called the M series, and with M standing for mysteries, magic, monsters, and many things more. Muttama says, and Muttama, of course, like, okay, you can slot her in whatever category you want to, basically, right? And the M series, which has a first book by Shashi Warrior, has, a second one by an author we really love. And we're so glad that HarperCollins managed to get her to do a story for them in the Indian children's book context. This is Cornelia Funk, and there is a monster tale over here. Now, this one we'd recommend, again, it's illustrated, so I'd say 9 plus, maybe 10 plus, depending on the levels at which you're reading. But Cornelia Funk is truly an internationally renowned author. She's done the Inkheart trilogy. Yes, absolutely. The Inkheart trilogy, which is just unputdownable. Those books are simply lovely. So delighted that we have one in the Indian context with her. Now, in this book, there is a furry red monster called, of course, the illustrations are in black and white, but it features a furry red monster called Ruffleclaw, who moves in with a family of human beings. And well, you know what he does? After he gets tired of eating the bugs, and after he gets tired of eating the different things that are lying around in that house, he just decides he has to be friends with the human beings in there. What a fantastic laugh out, funny story that is. I mean, he's a messy monster, he's a stinky monster, he spits stuff here, there, everywhere. And what happens to that family? Do they adopt him? Do they try to teach him to behave? Or does Claw make them these spitty, sort of human beings, really? And do they really decide to keep him as a pet? It's such a charming book, this one, priced at 250 rupees, 9 plus, 10 plus year olds, depending on reading levels, published by HarperCollins and priced at 250 rupees. And one final recommendation before we get on to other things. I mean, a lot more books in the bazaar. So like I said, do, log into www.funkyrainbow.com, click on the tab that says Book Bazaar. A drop-down menu will say Season 1, Season 2, Season 3. Click on the tab that says Season 3, and the first, tab there will say Monsters. Many more books up there, but we can recommend 10, 12 of them only. This one, The Rise of the Midnight King by Olivier Lefont, which is book one, and it's the only book that's come out in the Kumaon Secret Society series. Now, what is this about? And Olivier Lefont loves writing fantasy. So he lived in India. I think he's part French and part Indian, and has acted in a movie, right? I mean, which one is that? Guzarish. No. He was in that movie featuring Kareena Kapoor, right? Three Idiots, is it? Okay, all right. Excuse my ignorance about movies, folks. But he. Muttama says he's also acted in a film called Guzarish, but his claim to fame was to play Kareena Kapoor's bridegroom in the movie Three Idiots, at which point he was living in India, but at presently based in Paris. But a wonderful writer of fantasy fiction. I mean, well and truly, complete fantasy adventures for young readers. We would say 10 plus year olds. And I know this one, The Rise of the Midnight King, was on the Neve Book Award shortlist, which is, which tells you what a jolly good book it is. It's a saga set in the shadow of the Himalaya mountains. What a great setting for a fantasy adventure that features monsters. So of course there are twins, there are two kids, there is Shari and Kandhari, two sisters, and they set about solving an adventure in Devgar in the Himalayas. And of course there are sinister goings on, like, right, there's an evil character. I think the evil character in this, or I won't say evil, there's a mysterious character by the name Isaac Schroff, and there's the mesmerizing Mr. Mayor in the village as well. And what's happening absolutely in the village, what these twins need to solve is like all the cats are just absolutely disappearing. What's going on? What do the twins do? And yes, while you read this rollicking adventure, you are going to meet cat hungry rakshasas, you are going to meet yakshas, you're going to meet yakshis. What a fantastic story, full of wit, lovely wordplay in the story as well, full of wit, full of adventure. It's really will captivate readers 10 plus considerably. We hope Olivia Lafont is going to do the second book in the series very, very soon. So this one we'd recommend, like I said, and featuring nice, desi monsters actually, right? Like yakshas, like our Vikram and Vetal. There are lots of Vikram and Vetal books in our collection as well. Those are like our desi monsters. And this one too, cat hungry rakshasas, yakshas, yakshis, a fantasy adventure that takes you places literally. This one published by Talking Cub and priced at 350 rupees, recommended for 10 plus year olds. So those were our recommendations at the Monster Bazaar today, and I will get on and show you our 5 at 20 offer. Okay. These are new arrivals, the new arrival books that Bharti's just given me. We've read one or two of them, but some of them are just some of them are, I said we've read some of them because they are delightful picture books and part of series that we absolutely love. Some we haven't, looked at yet, but we're showing you these wonderful new arrivals from the fantastic Baby Bahadur series, Mannu and the Jamun Thief. I mean, for those of you who have read the Baby Bahadur series, you know what a treat these books are in every way. There are six, this is the sixth book in the series, but I do know families that have read Radhika Chadda's Baby Bahadur books, which feature characters like Shanmugam, Hutokshi, Mallipu, Kamini. And I know people have named their little pets, sometimes maybe even their bachas, they've named them after these kids, like, right? Because I do know of one family that they named their doggy Mallipu after the Baby Bahadur, books in the Baby Bahadur series. Now, this one, and Baby Bahadur, of course, is the elephant. I mean, these are stories that are set in a jungle, and Bahadur is the baby elephant. And now this one featuring Mannu, the monkey, who has been waiting all day to pluck the jamuns, the slurpy purple colored jamuns that are ripe and just waiting to be eaten. Now, what he's come there, of course, to look for those jamuns, and because it's jamun season, and he can't find a single one of them. Is he going to find the jamun thief? Look at Priya Kurian's fantastic illustrations and Radhika Chadda's ever popular series. I mean, we'd recommend that if you don't have the Baby Bahadur books, just pick up the entire set of 6 books. They are such a treat for young readers, both because of Radhika Chadda's fabulous stories and Priya Kurian's excellent illustration. Colorful, vivid, lovely, lovely illustrations. I just love the way Mannu looks. And of course, Bahadur will feature. So maybe the thief in this story has a trunk. I didn't say that. All right. Meant for 3+ year olds and priced at 165 rupees. We have two lovely new books from Katha, one called Playing, written by Sunaina Ali and illustrated by Debasmita Dasgupta, and one called The Tale of Makhi Lal, written by Geeta Dharmarajan and illustrated by Charbak Deepta. Lovely books always from Katha. I haven't read these ones yet, although I did flip through Playing. But these two, they do look. Playing is for certainly younger readers. I'd say 2+ year olds, or even 1+, depending on the age group. This one priced at 150 rupees, and Makhilal for slightly older readers, perhaps maybe 3+, priced at 195 rupees. We saw the next one that came in, and it sort of really piqued our curiosity because this one is called Helping Hospital. That's what the name of the hospital is, and what is this about? A community helpers book, it says. And I just feel that, in the pandemic times, like a lot of parents have asked for books on on healthcare, on medicine. I mean, just wanting to introduce their children to the fact that what do doctors do, how do they save lives. Well, this one we got, I mean, it's an international book written and illustrated by Lindsay Ward, that tells you what happens in a hospital. And you can see it's a perfect book, and it's actually quite interactive. The different departments and the busy people and the things that they do in hospitals. This one priced at 799 rupees. We'd recommend for 4+ year olds. All the international books up at fantastic discounts, so you may want to consider picking this one if you want to for your child to get a sneak peek into a hospital. Another lovely one that came to us from WWF, and this is WWF International, Where's the Tiger? It's a search and find book, and this series, and we've only seen the tiger in this one at the moment, is about all the endangered species on the planet. So what do they mean, search and find? It features some of the endangered species on on the planet. Now the thing is, it gives you a lot of information about these endangered species. And you know what, I mean, as you kind of keep exploring and looking through the book, it takes you through different regions of the world. The majestic tiger in the rainforests of Sumatra, the blue whale, the Antarctic blue whale, penguins. I mean, taking you through the, from tropical forests to, equatorial places, to underwater, to the polar regions. And you know what? There are things that they want you to spot on the pages. And look, when it's illustrated like this, what a pleasure it is to do it, besides giving you some facts about the number of those creatures that remain in the wild at the moment. This one priced at 699 rupees. I mean, created in collaboration with WWF, is, a superb effort towards conservation. And this one, the next book, again by a writer who we hugely love and admire at Funky Rainbow, and whose book, we're so delighted that she has a new one to her credit. And I do know, Arun, you're going to definitely pick this one up, I think. This is Clean Bold by Zai Whitaker and Nilofer Wadia. Zai, of course, we haven't read this one yet, but I'm wondering whether she's gone away from her theme, her love for nature and the environment in this book, but I feel that the twain can't be separated. I don't think, Zai's books will not have, a gentle love for the environment. It is, of course, a cricket story, and I know, she can bring a chuckle to your face when with her fabulous writing. So really eagerly looking forward to reading this book, written by Zai Whitaker and illustrated by Nilofer Wadia, this weekend. This one, published by Ekalavya, is priced at 90 rupees. I'll quickly run you through the books that are available at our 5 at 20 discount as well. We do 5 books every week at a 20% discount, which is really the biggest discount that we can offer as a small independent bookstore. So we mostly put all our international titles into this 5 at 20 discount. And this time we've got a clutch of, international books. And I'm going to start with one of my favorites, Last Stop on Market Street Street by Matt Della Pena and illustrated by Christian Robinson. It's a Newbery winner. It's a 2016 Newbery winner. It's a 2016 Caldecott honor book. It's got the Coretta Scott King illustrator honor book and a New York Times bestseller. What a lovely book about a little boy and his grandmother Nana, who go off on a walk on a Sunday. They get into a bus and they go around town. They go on little walks. Matt Penna's the protagonist of the book, called CJ, and his grandmother, who go take a bus ride together and absolutely discover the wonder and beauty of their neighborhood, of their vibrant neighborhood. It's a must in any diverse book collection. Matt Della Pena's book, an absolute must read. 8.99, but available at a special discount of 20%. We do have the ever popular Geronimo Stilton and the Keeper of the Empire, which they say is the 14th adventure in the Kingdom of Fantasy series. I know kids just absolutely love the Geronimo Stilton books. So this one up at a 20% discount as well. The third one ushers in Christmas in some way. And there is this Claire Bean story, which is called, Claire Bean is the protagonist, of course, called Think Like an Elf, written by Lauren Child. So if you're getting ready to celebrate Christmas, this chapter book may be one that readers 8 plus absolutely enjoy. 7.99 rupees, but available at a 20% discount. And 2 books for older kids. We do Agatha Christie in such a handsome edition, The Tuesday Club Murders, which is Miss Marple's 13 problems, basically. And it's part of her original Weekday Murder Club stories. This one, I know many Agatha Christie fans out there. Such a handsome production, featuring one of the world's most popular detectives, Miss Marple. 7.99 and priced, and at a 20% discount. And the last one, which looks like a very, very nice anthology, yet to read it, but there are 17 stories in this one called Black Boy Joy that absolutely celebrate growing up Black and growing up in a diverse world. So there are stories and there are poems. And I think, some of these books really, some of these stories, especially one that I read, I haven't read all of them, but there's one by Jerry Craft in this book. He's the guy who's done those lovely graphic novels, New Kid, and there's one more, right? Those little graphic novels that, Jerry Craft has done. That piece over here, Class Act, correct. New Kid and Class Act, 2 wonderful, graphic novels written by Jerry Craft. So I promptly picked this one up and read his story, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And, you really do know that the world is one place when you read these diverse books. This one is edited by Kwame Mbalia and priced at 5.99 rupees, available at a 20% discount currently. So with that, we're done with our 5 at 20 recommendations. And I'm just going to check if our guest for the day is there. He's here, is it? Okay. Just 1 second, Sham. I'll quickly introduce him, and then you can bring, Musharraf Ali Faruqi. For all our friends on Instagram, we're going to remain, playing this up for you, but you can only hear his conversation. You can't see it. But if you can actually move to Facebook or to YouTube, you would be able to see this conversation with our wonderful guest for the day, who joins us all the way from Lahore, Musharraf Ali Faruqi. There's so much that I can say about, Mr. Faruqi. He's an author, he's a linguist, he's a translator. He's the founder of StoryKit. And I do have a question for him about StoryKit, which is a program to teach language through stories. He has extensive experience of developing and publishing adult and children's literature in Urdu, gamification of pedagogical tools, and Urdu language reference works, including the online Urdu thesaurus, of which he is the founding editor. He is a Harvard University South Asia Institute fellow. And, he's written novels for adults as well, which is how I first got to know of Musharraf Ali Faruqi, because I read Between Clay and Dust, his book for adults, which was a finalist for the 2012 Man Asian Prize for Literature. I've also read Dastan-e Amir Hamza, and we're going to try to bring some of these books into Funky Rainbow, because this is an internationally acclaimed translation of the Dastan-e Amir Hamza, The Adventures of Amir Hamza, which Time magazine called, quote unquote, a gift to world literature. But ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Musharraf Ali Faruqi. Good morning,
Good morning. Good morning, Vidya, and thank you for having me on your wonderful show. I was listening to your conversation with your audience, and it was wonderful to hear all this interest in international literature, in reading, which is, what literature is all about, being a good reader, being an attentive reader. So thank you again for allowing me this opportunity to speak to your audience.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us here. I was just telling our audience about the wonderful things you've done. I'm like, is there something that you cannot do, Musharraf Ali Faruqi, really? And the reason why, of course, talking to him this morning is because he has some fantastic books for children, and we're going to be talking around the latest one, Monster Folk Tales from South Asia, written by him and illustrated and designed by his wife, Michelle Faruqi. But Musharraf's also, oh yes, Mutama wants some pictures. And, he also has two, other wonderful books. And in fact, Tick Tick and the Master of Time, which came out some years ago, which we have in stock at Funky Rainbow, a lovely fantasy, adventure for young readers, we'd say 9+ year olds. And the first one which he did, which we're trying to source at Funky Rainbow at the moment, but I'm not sure the Penguin has it in print. We're hoping to urge them to bring it back in print. The Amazing Mustaches of Muchandar, which is a book. And yes, the cover coming up right there. We're really going to make an all-out effort to try and bring some copies into Funky Rainbow, because that's a laugh-a-minute, lovely book, written by Musharraf. So, before we get into conversation with him, I just want to thank you for these wonderful books for children as well, Musharraf.
You're most welcome, Vidya. Thank you for reading them. Thank you for sharing them with the audience.
So monsters, Musharraf, are, they're really popular in contemporary children's books. I mean, there are all sorts of them, scary and funny and smiley and stinky and not quite so monsters. And, I'm almost certain to find a perfect monster book for a child or a young adult in your life. Why do you think children are so fascinated by monsters, and even adults, actually?
I think monsters represent something which at first sight, maybe later on it turns out to be a friendly monster like the big friendly giant, or some other monsters like Gruffalo. But
Yeah.
in when kids first see a monster, they see something alien and something that could possibly pose a danger. And children love thrills, so just
Yes.
the idea of a safe, watching from a safe distance from a book, as a books reader, something unfold far away in the safety of the pages. I think that is something that children enjoy unconsciously. Of course, this is our own interpretation as adults, but maybe children have some more insights into that. Maybe we should ask one of the kids why they feel so fascinated by monsters.
Absolutely. So tell us. I mean, in fact, one of our viewers already asking the question that we meant to ask you. Tell us about your latest children's book, Monster Folk Tales from South Asia. I mean, you have monster lore from different regions of South Asia. From Gilgit, from Balochistan. From different parts of South Asia. Which sort of ties in with a question that Arun from the audience is saying. And tell us about the book, and tell us why monsters of all characters in the book.
Because Vidya, the monsters represent the story of a monster, or as Christopher Booker, who's one of my literary heroes, he wrote this book called Seven Basic Plots, which is a
Okay.
wonderful um, description of what stories do, what is the function of stories, why we connect to stories in a particular way, and how there are only how there are really only seven basic plots, which move around and reappear as something. For example, the British epic poem Beowulf, he
Right.
gives an example of that. And
Okay.
he immediately gives next the example of Jaws, the movie Jaws, and
Right.
the novel. And he says that essentially it's the same story. A great threat emerges from the deep, and somebody comes out from the community to fight it, and then somebody else comes out, and so and like that he gives several examples. For example, the example of uh, uh, Jane Eyre, and
Okay.
example of Aladdin. He says these are
Ah,
essentially the same characters. They have the same kind of growth development pattern. So monsters. He coming back to the conversation. um Overcoming the monster, he considers the very basic plot, which appears in some sort of fashion in all stories. There's always a challenge. There is always something to overcome, and that is the monster.
I-
So I thought of writing a story which a collection of stories which reaches out to different regions, so all children can connect. Okay, these are the different regions, and here we have a monster lord, and what we did to, or as children, they can connect to their surrounding, their environment, their own history, because these are all historic myths about
right.
these places.
So do you want to tell our viewers about one or two? I mean, you have a fire demon in the book, and then you have like waves that invade and destroy a kingdom. We have some illustrations, of course, up from the book. Do you want to just give our viewers a glimpse into some of the monster folk tales that
Yes,
are in the
absolutely.
book?
So the first story is the story of Gondrani and the fire demon Asigor.
Right.
And Asigor is not a real name; it's a made-up name.
Okay.
Um, it's a name from the Balochi language. And I asked a friend of mine, um, a Baloch friend, what would be the name for a fire demon, and he mentioned that call it Asigor. So that's how I got the name.
Okay.
Uh, so this is a made up monster. This is a story of this story was recreated from very scant information that's available um, about the monsters for this particular place, and I just retold it. I mean, like I retold the other stories, but in this I supplied the missing information. What could have been, rather
Okay.
than what was there in how you retell it. I started something with that. Then there is Shri Badat, which is the king of Gilgit. He was a man eater,
Oh.
and he became a man eater. And there's a very interesting legend about it.
Uh-huh.
So um, these are all legends which were popular at one time. Very few people know about them, and this was time. This why I thought this was time to reintroduce them.
Yeah. I mean, I've been reading, I've read the stories in this one. And what is really lovely about these books, I mean, about this one, is that, I mean, we all know that every culture has its own collection of monsters, basically, right? And in their traditional tales, and there are fierce monsters, and many of the South Asian ones, or at least many of the ones that are in Asia, and perhaps are of fierce monsters who are outwitted by ingenious heroes and heroines, essentially, right? I mean, do you think and they form the core of many folk traditions in Asia. Do you think there's a distinct difference between the way folk stories of the East and the West? Do you think there's like a difference in the way that they present their monster stories?
Um, when we look at modern storytelling traditions, we like the way modern storytelling is done, or like the way um, children's literature from the West is written now. There is an effort, I think, and there's a very conscious effort of making it very soft, making it very soft on the emotions, soft on the nerves for kids.
Okay.
And what I see, the stories about monsters, or stories about, basically a story about a monster is a story about injustice of
Ah,
some kind.
right.
So if you do not repel injustice in a forceful manner, it will ultimately surround you and suffocate you and kill you. Um, in our world, we have always had stories where monsters were brutally encountered and put down, and this has to be the lessons that uh, if there is injustice, it has to be put down. Otherwise, it will just grow. Like any social evil, it just grows if it's not contained at a particular time. And by making the soft blow, oh no no no, you cannot show this much violence or that much violence. This was not the historic way. If you look at the stories of Panchatantra, or the
Mm-hmm.
uh, our old
Details, yeah.
historic literature, which was didactic in a sense, but it was also wonderful storytelling and practical lessons for the for our life, that they always tell us that you have to fight injustice, you have to fight brutality, you have to fight um, cruelty in the same manner that it's being imposed on you. Otherwise, there's no refuge from it. So I think it's very important that we make this message very clear to kids, that monsters, yes, uh, we can have a debate why something is a monster, or why we can find better ways of, but as long as we understand the nature of monster, and as long we understand that monster is something, because at a higher level what we are talking about are human monsters.
Right.
How often do we see a deep sea monster, or a fire demon, or Daves roaming around us? So I think these stories are all about the human face of monstrosity. Um, monstrosity is human face, or cruelty is human face. This is what these things are telling us, and we should look at it in that way.
Such a good trope you have identified of that battle against injustice, like rising against injustice, or evil in the world. Yeah, but these are for viewers who are watching, I mean, we'd say that this book definitely 9+year olds, 10+year olds, because children love encountering fire demons and cannibal giants and sea monsters. I mean, they really capture their imagination so fabulously well. I mean, and it's who doesn't want to see and so in the book there are even men, women, and even children who defeat some of these monsters, basically, right? And
Absolutely.
so there's always a thrill in seeing good triumph over evil. So Musharraf, all your children's books are illustrated by your wife, Michelle Faruqi, and so could you tell us what that collaboration is like? Sham, I'd like you to put up the illustrations from the book. Yeah, yeah.
Michelle is, I'm very lucky to have Michelle as my partner and my illustrator, as the illustrator for my books, because she's a wonderful artist, and she is able to tap into the uh, the imagery that I write with, because my drawing is awful and I cannot draw and explain to her what is there. But she is able to uh, tap into it and uh, make it just as I'd imagined it. So it's an amazing talent. She's a wonderful artist, and this is I mean, most of my stories stand because of the powerful illustrations, and are remembered by children because of those characters and how she portrays them.
Ah. Yeah, they are indeed the illustrations. I can see, some comments coming up saying how wonderful illustrations are. And in children's books, I think they play such a vital role, actually, right, to attract the readers to, to the books. So our, complete compliments to Michelle for, giving you the images to complement your words. So I was really curious. I was reading up about you, and I, as the founder of Story Kit, and which is a program that to teach children language through stories. I mean, that itself is such an interesting premise. I mean, you believe that stories make them readers, and then becoming a reader makes them self learners. And tell us a bit about Story Kit. And Ameya, I can see a comment that comes up saying, Ameya says, wow, Ameya is all of 3 years, Musharraf, and great reading parents, and a very, very good reading sibling. So she
Thank you,
obviously
Ania,
proud.
for your comments. I hope
Michelle's
you'll enjoy the
illustrations
stories.
have made her go wow. But sorry, please go ahead and tell us about Story.
Story Kit is something we started, Michelle and I, to uh, think, uh, to teach language through stories, and it emerged from a process. It emerged from the process of um, going to schools, reading out from my books, like when I published Tick Tick and the Master of Time,
Mhm.
Tick Tick the Master of Time here. Uh, I published it myself from my publishing house, Kitab, and I went to schools to do. Now, because it's a longer story, it's a short novel. I could not read the whole story, so I could only read bits from it and get children excited about the book. And we sold a number of copies during those school visits. And I saw how children respond to stories once you engage them with some information about it. Later on, the same process was repeated. We did storytelling sessions in schools with other books, and these were books with short poems, short stories, Mushanda, Amazing Mustaches of Mushanda the Iron Man, and other stories. And kids would listen to these stories, and then they would go out and buy them. Now, why are you buying a book if you have already listened to the story? I mean, what's the logic, right?
Yes.
Uh, but as a child, I put myself in the place of a child, that if I listened to a great story or something that I really liked, I would want to relive that experience
Absolutely.
with my own imagination, with the whole story before me, and at a pace that is to my own liking. Maybe fast, maybe slow, maybe disjointed, maybe you know, reading it every now and then in small bits. So, StoryKit, and the website for this is storykit.com. It is um, uh, it has a small story. It's a small box with a story in it. Just give me 1 second. Let me show you what a
Yeah,
StoryKit box
sure.
looks like.
We'd love to. We'd love to see one. Yeah.
So, fortunately, it was right here. So, here is the StoryKit box. It's a 3 by 4 inch box with one story. This is a folk tale, Podna and Podni.
Okay.
And these are two characters. This is the king, who's the evil, who's the villain. In this, he kidnaps the small bird, and then the Podna, the male bird, goes on a frog cart to rescue the
Okay.
small bird. In this, we have, so this is the English. One side is the English version, and one side is the Urdu version.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
then we have in this box, we open this, it slides out like a matchbox.
Okay.
And we have in this the storybook.
Okay. Oh, mini book.
Mini book. Adults don't understand mini books, but children love them. If you show them to adults, they say, "Oh, this is small book. How can you read it?" But they don't know how much children love small books. Then we have the narration of this story, and that's my cat coming up, Mighty.
Lovely. We love the company you keep, Musharraf.
And this is a QR code on the
Okay.
side of the story. And
Okay.
through this QR code, you can
Mm-hmm.
listen to the narration of this story on SoundCloud.
Oh, oh,
So
it's
if you yes, so if you go to storykit.com, the audio stories are there from a number of these, and you can actually listen to them.
okay.
Then we have something which is why it's called a story kit. So it has the story, it has the narration, and it has a whole game, a board
Oh,
game, a board game with tokens and dice.
oh, nice, nice.
So we have this, and it this game basically reinforces the plot of the story. So the plot of the story is the king kidnaps a small bird. The bird goes to rescue his wife and meets a cat and a river and fire and a lion and ants, and they all go sitting in his ear to
Oh,
go and fight the king and help him. So this game is based on those stages of the
oh,
mission. So this is
oh,
what Story Kit is about, and we tried it very successfully at a UNESCO pilot, sanctioned pilot in a district called Muzaffargarh. And the
okay.
complete report of that program and what happened there, how children loved it, what was the progress, because we uh, do the storytelling, and then we invite the kids to come and do storytelling themselves, and you see the progress. So there are actually videos there from schools
Okay.
where kids have attempted storytelling session the first time, and then you see them doing it the second time and then the third time. So
Wow.
you see how they progress, and kids love these story kits, and it was a huge success. And
Oh,
so
wow.
we want to take this on
They
a much
are
bigger
just
scale.
lovely, lovely. We have to get the story kits and Funky Rainbow. I mean,
Absolutely,
we will write to you, Musharraf. We're not going to stop bugging
absolutely,
you.
absolutely. I'll be there.
So Siddharth says so innovative, especially the matchbox concept and sound card. Like, right? I mean, it's so you're right. I mean, there's many books. You just pull them out, and the kids love holding them like that, and to be able to hear the stories off a site. But definitely because I know Muttama is in touch with many libraries that do ask. They do come and ask for books in Urdu, and we don't have that many up here. Are they only English Urdu, or do you have
No,
them in other language
we are
combinations?
actually looking for partners in India
Mm-hmm.
to provide these stories, because most of these are folk tales, which are shared folk tales between our regions. And we are looking for partners in India. So if there are any people interested who would like to collaborate with us in publishing the Malayalam, Tamil, Hindi,
Oh, nice.
Odia versions of these stories, we would love to hear from you. And we would love to create stories, provide these stories from. If you have any favorite stories that you would like us to do, we would do that. We'll prepare it, and
Well, that's just
we'd love
excellent.
to introduce this program. And we'd love to collaborate with Funky Rainbow in taking
Yay!
this on a bigger scale.
We're going to be in touch. Sorry. Yeah, I know, I know. Uttama was just showing me one, which we have in Kannada. It's not a story kit, but a publisher who did these teeny tiny board books in Kannada. These
Hmm.
are in Kannada, which is the language of the state that we are from in
Yes,
Karnataka. And they say that children just love holding something that is like this size.
which they can possess like in a paw. This is the my paw, and this I'm holding a book, and I can put it in my pocket, and I can put it under the pillow. The whole relationship with the book changes in a
Absolutely.
miniaturized version. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sunila Kulkarni Gupte, who's a writer here in India, writes with children. She says, "This is so fascinating listening to this. Thank you so much, Farooq ji."
Thank you,
And
Sunila.
Arun says it's such a wonderful initiative, of course.
Thank you.
So, we have to ask you, because we were on the theme of monsters and we've completely drifted into the world of story kits, but we're definitely going to be in touch with you, for some of your favorite monsters from children's books, Musharraf.
So, most of my favorite monsters are human villains. So, uh, uh, there is it's an adult novel, Uncle Silas. The villain is really interesting. The Woman in White
Mhm.
by Wilkie Collins. The
Mhm.
villain there is again very complex and very interesting to read. Uh, there are some Roald Dahl stories which
Yes.
are not talked about as much. For example, Danny the Champion of the World. It's one of my favorite stories, uh, and the man whose whose lands Danny and his father poach on is
Yes.
an interesting sort of villain. Then there is, of course, the other book by Roald Dahl, Witches, in which the witches are the
Oh, the
main.
witches. Huh. Okay. Huh.
There is one book which I really admired. I read recently, and there is a kind of monster in that. Is Here Be Monsters by Alan Snow, which was made into a movie called Box Trolls,
Okay.
and it's one of my absolute favorite books. So
Okay.
Alan Snow's Here Be Monsters. I
Uh-huh.
will highly recommend you to try reading, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
You have recommended something that we don't actually. I mean, Sham knew it because he'd seen the Box Trolls movie, but
Hmm.
we're going to try and get the book up at Funky Rainbow, definitely. I know Siddharth Nair says there are lots of lovely folk stories for children from Pakistan, which we would love to hear. And and you, Siddharth, will get a couple of them from this, from monster folk tales from South Asia, definitely. And Parag Sen says the matchbook format is just brilliant. It opens up a whole new product category.
Yes, of course.
So thank you so very much for being here with us today. It's been such a pleasure and such an honor talking to you,
No,
Musharraf.
it was my absolute pleasure talking to you, Vidya, to your team, and to your wonderful audience. And I hope we'll have more chances of such conversations in the future. And I'll be very happy to have any kind of collaborative work related to kids going with your organization, with other organizations interested in children's literature. We'd love to have that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll definitely be in touch. Thank you so much for joining us at our book bazaar today. It was just lovely chatting with you. We also thank your publisher, HarperCollins, for.
Yes, HarperCollins has been very supportive. I've had a number of publishers in the past. Puffin, Penguin Random House, which published the Amazing Mustache of the Mushanda the Iron Man, Red Turtle, Sudeshna
Right.
Shom Ghosh there, um, who published that, and Tina Narang at HarperCollins, who's published this. So I'm very grateful for all the hard work my publishers have put in getting these books out and getting people involved.
Thank you. Yes, we too thank HarperCollins. We've been doing these shows for, we've done like over 70 shows at the moment, and we've been,
Wonderful.
tirelessly championing, children's books. I'm so glad publishers have come forward and recognized the initiative. But thank you so much for joining us at the Book Bazaar
Thanks again.
today. We'll
Thanks again.
definitely be in touch with you, Musharraf.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Goodbye. Bye.
Bye. What a pleasure it was to have Musharraf Ali Faruqi. I can see Parag Sen saying this matchbook format creates a whole new relationship angle with the reader. And though it's small in size, it creates a lot more real estate given it is in folded form. Absolutely. Really fascinating. There are some matchbox books available for adults, that I have seen a couple of times, but these are the ones that I'm seeing first time, the kid lit space. And we're definitely going to see if we can collaborate with Musharraf Ali Faruqi to bring them over here. But of course, do consider picking up his monster folk tales from South Asia. He really writes fabulously well, and Michelle Faruqi's illustrations taking you into the world of folklore from Gilgit, Balochistan, Sindh, and some parts of South Asia that we may not be familiar with. Before we sign off, we can't go off without our dear friend, Kangeri Hanumantarao. I know many of you are saying thank you, and I know we're probably overshooting our time, but we have to have dear Kangeri be up to his usual tricks.
Namaskara. I am the Kengeri Hanumanta, retired from the Panchayat. I am here to ask you questions as usual. then you are learning so much about the monsters of the very different places. Gentleman, Mr. Faruqi has also told you about several monsters like that. So when you are doing the monster and all from our regions, I will ask you a quiz of the monsters from the other places, like the international monsters like that. So when you say monsters, you may think, oh, there is also a monster in Funky Rainbow. That is only Editorama. But she is like a fire-breathing dragon. Only when she is getting the editorial inputs, then she say, "What is this? This is the spelling mistake. This grammar is the wrong. What is an M dash doing here? What is comma? I am only in coma all the time." But this she is also a monster, but she's also a very talkative person. That is why she's doing the show like book Bazaar and all. But first, now we will come to the questions. So I asked you about the different monsters from the internationals. So now you are knowing the monsters like horse. Like that, the horse. So what is horse with white color and wings of bad? You are no. It is a tricks question. I am ox. Listen carefully. What is white horse with wings of bads? I am looks for the answer in the computer. Array, I am ox with the wings. What is your shouting nonsense from the side? Anybody tells me, please. You. Yes. Only one question I ask and you're confused. I will wait for 10 seconds more. Okay, nobody's answer. Then I will say the answer. It is the Pegasus. Now you are confused, no? You are thinking horse, white colors. Then I ask you easy questions. What is horse with the... That is array? No, Pegasus. Now I ask you question for this answer. Now, if you say unicorn, then I tells you what is the questions. The questions is what is horse with one horn? Now you know, no? Now you know answer is unicorn. So now you go, Amaya got the right answer now. Then like always with Funky Rainbow, you don't win the prizes, only win surprises. So question number 2. This also one books we have talks about in earlier book Bazaar. It is body of man. Like, see, I am man's. So body of man's with the head of the bull. Like the bull. You understand bull, no? Cow husband, bull. Like that. What is monster with the body of man and head of bull? Okay. I wait for 3 minutes for answer. People are still saying unicorn. What is body of man, head of bull? No, he is not in politics. Then nobody is saying. I will only answer the revealing the answer. Oh yes, somebody is. Minotaur. Yes, Minotaur is correct answer. Somebody answers on the Instagram. Yes, Instagram very intelligent peoples. Mittanti. Yes, Minotaur is right answer. Now, only one last question. I ask about the Norwegian legends. See, giant sea creatures in the sea. The sea creatures will be in the seas only. Where else in Funky Rainbow? We already have creatures in Funky Rainbow. So this giant sea creatures attacks the ships and the sailors. Now you understand. Now you answer this question. Yes, I am gives. I am wait for the computer. Computer lock kiya jaye. Yes. What is Norwegian legend with the giant sea monster attacking the ships, sailors? Now you're thinking Pirates of the Caribbean, no? No. Those are pirates. This is, I give the correct answer. And, 3 more seconds I give you. 3, 2, 1. Yes, Krakens! That is the correct answer. Mr. Siddharth Noyers. I don't know. Maybe Amaya. Maybe Avyukt, Junior Avyukt. Very smart boy. Yes. That is correct answer. It is the Kraken. Kraken is monster. Yes. With that, so yes, I am not knows many languages. Only this much. I know only Norwegian Kraken. Maybe the same monster in different other cultures also. That is also possibilities. But I don't know too much about that. I am retired from Panchayat, so I am not do any more monsters. Yes. So with that, I takes your leaves and I will give the dayas back to the editor. Okay. Namaskara. I will see you next time. Bye. Goodbye. Goodbye. Okay.
For coming from Kengeri, Hanumanta is absolutely well traveled, I have to say. But before we say bye-bye for the day today, it was a lovely conversation with Musharraf Ali Faruqi. Do consider picking up his children's books, Monster Folk Tales from South Asia. A shout out to a couple of other friends who've joined us across the show: Srividya Venkat, Karishma Rora, Parveen Saif, Tickling Tailbone, Shalini, Falak Randarian, Tanni Muniraju, Gayatri Mambra, My Life's Blessed, MS Adams, Vaishnavi, Ashwini, Namita Patel, Return Gifts for All, Halfling Rogue, Monica, Book B Shreyu, Meet Pamani, Munmun Mitra Das, Project Bibliotherapy, Sainish, Sulfur Cosmos, Arti Mutanna Singh, Bhajju Sham, our guest from last week, Ruth McKinney, Parag Sen, Kahani Tree, what a pleasure, an independent bookstore from Bombay, Claire Norman, Pauline Porter, Mitanti, Divya Menon, Vaishali Sisir Chakravarti, Jiva Jaydas, Siddharth Nair, and Ritvika Roy. Thank you so much for making our Saturday monstrously good, really. We hope you have tons of Monster Mazza this weekend and pick up some books from us at Funky Rainbow. We'll see you next week with another bazaar. Till then, have fun and keep reading. Bye bye.